Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Please welcome the Executive Director, Coatson Foundation for the Art of Teaching, Mr. Jerry Harris.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Harris, the Executive Director at the Coatson Foundation for the Art of Teaching. I want to take a moment to welcome and thank all 500 of you who have chosen to spend the morning with us. Thank you for your valuable time and your willingness to continually stretch your minds and hearts. Our founder, Mr. Coatson, once said, "Education can be a head game, an affair of the mind, but teaching is an affair of the heart." We at the foundation are very clear that the true hearts of teachers have been on display every day since the pandemic swept across our communities. Your caring, resilience, and flexibility over the last year have been nothing less than inspiring. We are equally convinced that this same strength and commitment of heart will allow all of us who care about great teaching and learning to lean into the moment and create magic for students and each other. Today's conference is unique in two ways. First, this is the first time that all of the sessions offered are facilitated by our own alumni. Pretty amazing. And secondly, obviously, we are convening virtually. It goes without saying that this school year has been profoundly different. Yet, in the most fundamental way, it is the same as its predecessors, in that there are thousands of young people and their families looking to schools, specifically you, their teachers, to create a safe, brave space for learning. Likewise, we at Coatson are committed to creating a safe, brave space for you to learn, even during this very challenging time. I'd like to offer a few thanks out there because we could have never done this without the help of so many different people. First, a special thank you to our foundation president, Dr. Munitz, and our board of directors for their leadership and their vision. And secondly, to our amazingly talented staff for their creativity, for the excellent programs that they have continued to provide. Also, a very special thank you to Sharon Sutton and all of the facilitators who have worked so hard to create today's powerful program. Sharon and the facilitators have worked with us for 5 years, and we've watched this program grow and develop into this amazing opportunity for our alumni to present. Thank you, Sharon and facilitators. Last but not least, a very special thank you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Megan Franke, professor at UCLA School of Education and Information Studies. Megan has always been a friend to the foundation and is someone upon whom we can always call for knowledge and inspiration. I've known Megan, I've had the pleasure of knowing her for more than 20 years, and I am continuously in awe of her passionate commitment to helping all students develop strong mathematical thinking and understanding. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our founding director, Mrs. Margaret Sperling Coatson. Mrs. Coatson loves and supports this program and our mission to transform good teachers into great teachers with every fiber in her being. Please help me welcome the Art of Teaching's guiding light, Mrs. Coatson.
Good morning and welcome to the Empowered Learning Conference. I first want to tell you how inspired I have been this past year by all of you. You have come with your whole selves to meet the challenges of the pandemic, to jump in and try new things, and to teach not only your students, but ourselves, but yourselves. And I'm especially delighted that this conference is created by alumni and for alumni and fellows. What a perfect opportunity for the presenters to give back what the codes and teachings have given them. How pleased Mr. Coates would have been to see all in action. And now, as each of you shifts and changes to meet the prospect of the online and hybrid instruction models, I know you will meet them with the same openness you have shown this past year. The offerings of this conference will, I hope, will add new tools to your toolkits, connect you with new ideas, and create some solid new pathways towards the future. The foundation staff has worked very hard to bring you a special morning filled with very timely and supportive information. So, a very big thank you to Jerry Harris, the leadership, and the entire staff of the Coates Foundation for the Art of Teaching. Thank you all for all you do. Enjoy.
Thank you, Jerry and Mrs. Coatson, for always finding just the right words to inspire us so we continue to make the magic happen for our students. I'm Sharon Sutton, the conference coordinator and the Coatson Principals Network coordinator, and I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Megan Franke. Megan Franke has traveled the learning path from third grade teacher in Wisconsin to professor of education at UCLA. She has held numerous positions from director to interim dean and won too many awards to mention in this brief introduction. Megan is that rare, approachable educator who will pose questions instead of give answers, challenge our thinking by deepening our thinking, and make learning engaging because we, her students, are always at the center of her instruction.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be working in partnership with Coatson again today. I want to reiterate the words that Jerry shared earlier this morning about the safe and brave spaces that we are creating for you and that you're creating for your students. I love this picture that's on our screen right now. This picture is a representation for me of where we are in this moment. This is a picture that Annie drew, and Annie is a TK student, and this is Annie's representation of school. This is our world today. It's a Zoom screen full of faces. This is not the picture I would have drawn of school at the age of 5, but we live in a different time. And it's so important for us to be remembering that we are existing right now in a pandemic, in a time of great racial unrest and anti-Black racism, that we are living in a time where there are threats to our democracy. And during all of this, you all, educators, are doing this amazing job of creating these safe and warm spaces for young people, remoteness and all. I was reminded recently that that now more than ever, students are struggling to feel seen and heard and feel like they belong. And it seems like such an important time for us to be thinking as educators, how can we support more of our students, every single one of our students, to feel seen, heard, and really feel like they belong, no matter how old our students are. So today I want to spend these 15 minutes or so with you thinking about that and orienting us to those ideas as we move into our day, so that as you join these wonderful sessions that are coming up, you can be thinking about, how are these sessions helping me think about the ways in which I'm supporting my students, even in remote learning, online, or in hybrid spaces, to feel seen, heard, and to really feel like they belong. To do that today, I'm going to take us back to 1935 and share a quote with you from W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm going to ask you during these 15 minutes to see if you can find yourself a piece of paper and a pencil or something to write with. You can use your computer tools. I'm going to ask you a couple times this morning to jot some ideas down. And because there are so many of us and we don't have a chat available, I want you to keep track of your ideas so that you can build on them this morning and then throughout the sessions today. In 1935, Du Bois was writing a piece about segregated schools and whether we need segregated schools for Black students. He ultimately decides that we actually do, in that moment, need segregated schools for African-American students, for Black students. But he shares in this article this quote that I found very compelling, and I want to read it to you. And I want us to think about it, and then I'm going to ask you a question about it. The question which I am discussing is, are these separate schools and institutions needed? And the answer, to my mind, is perfectly clear. They are needed just so far as they are necessary for the proper education of the Negro race. The proper education of any people includes sympathetic touch between teacher and pupil, knowledge on the part of the teacher, not simply of the individual taught, but of his surroundings and background and the history of his class and group. Such contact between pupils and between teacher and pupil on the basis of perfect social equality will increase the sympathy and knowledge. Facilities for education and equipment and housing and the promotion of such extracurricular activities as will tend to induct the child into life. I want us to think about that quote for a minute. And the question I pose to you is, so what resonates with you from this quote? Can you write down one thing that you notice that resonates with you about what Du Bois said in 1935? Let me give you a minute to do that. When I've shared this quote with others, people are compelled by things like the sympathetic touch and what does that actually mean and look like and feel like from the perspective of young people. They are drawn to these ideas about that the proper education includes facilities, right? And things outside of school in terms of extracurricular activities. So I want you then to think about what's one way you, in your work, accomplish Du Bois' ideas about a proper education. I wonder if you could add an idea about how you are doing this, because I know you all are, in the work you do now. Can you just take a note of that on your in your notes? So not surprisingly, you all, I've been thinking about this too. And not surprisingly, I've been thinking about how do I think about what it means to be seen and heard? What does it mean for young people to be seen and heard in our classrooms, in our environments? And okay. That's not good, you all. I can't get my slides straight. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So thanks for your patience. So as I think about being seen and heard, I think about the different ways in which we support participation for young people. I think about supporting different ways of doing mathematics. You could think about different ways of doing writing, reading, social studies, science, different ways of doing PE, right? Like the content is mathematics because that's what I do, but any content would play here. And I also think about supporting students first. So I just want to talk for a couple minutes about these, and I'm not going to work through all of these examples, but I wanted to provide you some ways of understanding what I'm thinking as I talk about supporting different forms of participation. So often in classrooms, right, when we're in CGI classrooms or thinking about young people and their participation, we think about asking students to explain. And explaining verbally is very valued as a form of participation. But it's also the case that young people can ask really good questions, right? They can note agreement or disagreement. They can share uncertainty. All of these are valued forms of participation that sometimes don't get recognized as valued forms of participation. We can explain beyond talking. We put such value in school on talk, right? Talking is important, explaining in words is important, but so are gestures. And so is being able to represent with materials or write on a piece of paper. We often value particular kinds of ways that explanations emerge, right? I remember as a teacher that there were certain students I worried about calling on because I knew it would take them a really long time to get their ideas out. And I reflect on that and feel so badly about my not wanting to call on them because we don't all explain in the same ways, right? We have young people who tell beautiful stories or like to explain in a more circular way. In school, we value this very linear approach to explaining, right? If we want to help students be seen and heard, we need to open up these ways of participating and value them and honor them rather than trying to get students to go faster. Right? We have particular ways in school that we want students to join the conversation, right? But some students are really good at just jumping in the moment, right? Some of them just want to say a quick thing, which we might think of as a quip, right? But it's a really important form of participation. We have particular ways in which we think about how students move and what gets valued. That's all kind of been challenged by remote teaching, right? But it's not just forms of participation, it's also different ways of doing the content, you all. And we've been working on this a lot in the CGI work that we do, right? What counts as doing mathematics? We've talked about partial understandings, that there are these nuggets of ideas that emerge in the things that students say that we first look at as, ooh, that was wrong. Well, in that wrongness is a lot of rightness. So how do we note the content that's emerging there? Do young people need to have beautiful academic language in the way that we expect from school? Can we value the really wonderful academic language that they're using in a different kind of way? Is it that you have to know your number facts with speed? Is that the content that we're looking for? There's so many ways in which we think about mastery in school, right? You have to master counting before you add. Which challenges who gets seen and heard, right? How students feel like they belong. So often, right, we say, you can't do that yet. You can't read. You can't read Junie B. Jones because you're not ready for it, right? When that's all you really care about. And then you don't feel seen and heard. And probably most important for me on this list is supporting students first. Thinking about who young people are, like Du Bois urged us to do, what their histories are, why that matters. I've been reading a novel with my book group, Pachinko, and it's gotten me really thinking about how much our histories, our cultural histories, shape our lives in ways that we don't anticipate or recognize. I think this is so important right now for our understanding of anti-Black racism, anti-Blackness and racism. I think we need to understand deeply the histories that our students bring and how much those shape who they are in their participation and the ways in which the structures of school are keeping young people from feeling seen, heard, and belonging. I want us to today, as we move for our day, be thinking about all of the ways in which you might be providing these opportunities, but also the ways in which school, the ways in which the ways schools are set up, the ways in which decisions are made at the state and federal level, push on your ability to help people, to help our young people feel seen and heard, and to think about how to push back on those. How do we keep our students from being impacted by those things? I've been reading this winter. I read a book called Troublemakers: Lessons in Freedom from Children at School by Carla Shalaby. I don't know if you all have seen this book, but it's gotten me thinking pretty hard, you all. And what Carla Shalaby is doing in this beautiful book is she tells us the story of 4 young people and their experiences in school. And these are 4 young people who are considered troublemakers at school. They're in wonderful classrooms, you all, where teachers are really thoughtful and caring. But they are portrayed by school and in these classrooms as troublemakers. And what Carla Shalaby tries to get us to think about is that these students aren't troublemakers. They're the canaries in the coal mine. They're the young people who are telling us that school isn't working and we need to change school, not fix the young people. She has this really wonderful quote in the last part of her book that I want to read to you here. And just to note, her book is about love and freedom. It's about the ways in which we bring love and freedom to the work. Back to Jerry's point, right? That it's about the heart of teaching, and she really builds on that idea in this book. She says, if we saw these 4 children only in school, we might not be able to see themselves as anything but troublemakers. The voices of the families in this book paint an alternate picture of their children for us to view with reverence and delight. These alternate images allow us to view children as complex and beautiful human beings rather than caricatures of troublemakers. Their humanness encourages us to try and understand their behavior through a more generous lens, a lens that treats troublemaking as a verb rather than a noun. I thought you all would like this idea. As a noun, a troublemaker is a kind of person, an identity encoded in and imprinted on individual bodies. It locates the problem of non-compliance in people. In contrast, we can instead treat troublemaking as a verb, a process, an action, a system. We can ask, how does trouble get made as these children interact with school? Such a question redirects our attention away from fixing people whom we assume to be broken, and instead toward addressing the harms that seek to break them. I think this is the work you all are already doing. I think it's important to raise it up and to make it explicit and to be together pushing back on the systems that are having us see our students as not quite fitting school and trying to fix them to fit. So the question I ask you as an end today is to add to your notes now. What is one way you can challenge yourself to open more opportunities for your students to feel seen, heard, and that they belong? I want to give you just a minute to add to your notes. What is one way you can challenge yourself to be open, to open more opportunities for your students to feel seen, heard, and that they belong? I know you'll have opportunities to think about this all morning today. And I challenge you to take this up as you're engaging in the wonderful sessions that are coming your way this morning. And thanks for spending these few minutes thinking with me about the ways in which we can challenge these the status quo for our young people, and for doing it in a time that's unbelievably challenging for all of us, and for in places where all of us need a chance to take a deep breath and feel seen and heard, and that we belong.
Thank you, Megan, for inspiring us with your keynote. Megan is one of those rare individuals who selflessly gives of herself to further the CGI vision and our mathematical knowledge. When asked, she always says yes. Her passion for what she does and her indomitable spirit make her a true gift. And we are all thankful that she so graciously supports our Coatson family. Thank you, Megan. We also want to thank Mrs. Coatson and Jerry Harris, along with the Coatson board and staff, for their invaluable support over the past 5 years. Thank you for allowing the vision for this alumni conference to come alive and thrive. We also want to give special thanks to our Coatson alumni presenters. These presenters are the best of the best, your fellow Coatson colleagues. Finally, I'd like to thank the PTN, or Principals Tech Network facilitators. This conference is the result of the vision and dedication of the PTN network, a group of amazing Coatson alumni fellows and mentors who, in addition to their regular jobs, are committed to moving their districts forward by helping to transform learning and empower learners in their respective districts. I'd like to introduce them to you now. Ignacio Avila, Whittier City School District. Amy Bennett Rosado, Pomona Unified School District. Rick Biscosio, Long Beach Unified School District. Karen Knudsen, Tustin Unified School District. Brandy Miller with the Roland Unified School District. Claudette Patney, Pomona Unified School District. Carrie Smaker, the Tustin Unified School District. Kristen Welsh with the Los Angeles Unified School District. And Dr. Tricia Colella, our Principals Tech Network advisor. I'd also like to provide you with some logistics for this conference. There are 21 presentations divided into 3 sessions. You will have the opportunity to choose 3 presentations to attend. While you are not able to attend all the presentations are being recorded and will appear on the Coatson website at a later date for you to view. You may choose whichever session you'd like to attend, but we ask that out of respect for our presenters, that you continue with your first choice. Each presenter will conduct a Q&A directly following their presentation. They will also share the resources at that time. The video and chat feature were disabled during the general session. Video will be turned on for the presentations. The private chat feature will continue to be disabled. At the conclusion of session 3, we will have district breakout rooms available for you to share your ideas with your colleagues. A breakout room has been created for districts with 3 or more attendees. A combined district breakout room has been created for smaller districts and those attendees who would like to share ideas across districts. Finally, we have the addition of a district breakout room. Jody Manby will be discussing the new Coatson Technology Grant available to all fellows and mentors and principals, both current and alumni. Look for the Coatson Grants breakout room during the district breakout room time. You'll be able to ask questions and begin your grant writing. The evaluation link is available in the menu bar. Please complete the evaluation before you leave the conference. We value your input as it helps us to continually improve this conference. The resources for every session will be made available to you. You will be given the password to the resources at the end of session 3 by the session 3 moderators at 11:50. On behalf of the Coatson Foundation, Mrs. Coatson, Jerry Harris, Dr. Megan Franke, and the Principal Step Network facilitators, and our incredible Coatson alumni presenters, thank you for your dedication and hard work in making this conference possible. And thank you to our attendees for choosing to spend your Saturday morning with us to further your knowledge.